the French Prime Minister has announced a competition to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral, the iconic spire that got lost in the fire. France's Prime Minister has announced an international architecture competition to rebuild the iconic arrow-like spire atop the Notre Dame Cathedral. He says, should we reconstruct an arrow the same, adapted to the techniques and challenges of our time? An international architecture competition for the reconstruction of the cathedral spiral will be organized. And that was by French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe. He wrote on Twitter. Now, the French President Emmanuel Macron announced that this cathedral will be completely rebuilt within 5 years, or his name is not President Emmanuel Macron.
Right.
That's exactly what he said.
Right.
Now, the two richest families in France have donated, the second richest family, I forgot his name.
Betancourt.
Right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
He donated $100 million to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral. Not to be outdone, because there is a competition between the richest man and second richest man.
Of course.
They want to pull down, I guess, since it's hump day, we could say it like this. They could pull down their pants and swing it and see whose is bigger.
Right.
Right? And the guy who's the richest, what's his name?
L'Oréal.
Right. He says, mine is bigger. I'm going to donate $200 million to rebuild the cathedral. On top of that, many people have donated money as well to rebuild the cathedral. Many from France, some from around the world, many from France. They have raised over, in I think, was this 24 hours, over $900 million in donations or proposed donations to rebuild Notre Dame Cathedral.
Wow.
Now, what's going on in France, if you remember watching Bradshaw Live, I was just in Paris. They have something called the Yellow Jackets, and the Yellow Jackets are protesting what is in essence a tax, a carbon tax. It started with the truckers. They were protesting a carbon tax to help prevent global warming. And they were going to tax gasoline and all sorts of carbon footprints. And as a result, the truckers said, hey, that's not fair, because that tax is a tax that goes to poor people, middle-class people, and rich people alike. It's not a gradual tax where rich people are paying more for their gas than poor people. Right. So it actually hurts poor people more than it hurts rich people.
Right.
What does a rich person care if he pays an extra $1 a gallon?
Right.
They don't have gallons in France, but whatever it is.
Liters.
Liters. Okay, but if a poor person or a middle class person is paying an extra euro, because they don't have dollars either, or whatever the tax was, or €2 per gallon, especially if you're a trucker or a taxi cab driver, and this is how you make your living, that really hurts.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, because you're filling your car, your truck up every day, and that's what caused these Yellow Jacket riots to begin with.
Right.
Okay, which is the same pressure point or nerve that Donald Trump hit with many of the people who voted for him as well, not in the cities, but in the rural areas.
Yep.
Okay, so now that the richest person in France and the second richest person in France have donated $300 million, and that most of France has come in and donated, a lot of wealthy people have donated. They have reached over $900 million. People on Twitter and in social media, and many people in the media in France are saying, wait a second, this is exactly what the Yellow Jackets were protesting against.
Right.
They can raise $900 million to rebuild a cathedral, but they don't have any money to offset a carbon tax that's going to hit the poor and middle class. And they're calling it the Les Miserables. They're calling themselves the Les Miserables after Les Miserables, the Broadway show, the musical, the movie,
Yes.
and the book,
And the
which
book.
it was originally taken after, where the poor and middle class from the 1800s rose up to fight the bourgeois.
Wow.
Right.
The bourgeois in France. And here they're saying very similar things. The bourgeois, the rich, they in by a stroke of one Twitter response said, I'm going to give $300 million between the two of them.
Right.
But now, where was this when when they were going to raise the carbon tax. Why didn't you just tax them to $300 million and you didn't have to?
Wow.
You didn't have to. We didn't have to go and protest and get killed at the gas pump. You know, working class people.
Right. Interestingly enough, Les Miserables was also written by Victor Hugo, who wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh,
that's very cool. I did
know
not know that.
There's a little
something.
I thought so. As you
right.
were saying that, I was like, wait, this is both Victor Hugo.
So the whole thing is playing out.
Yeah.
That there's been complete unrest. When I was in Paris a week ago, there were streets you couldn't go down. Not because the street was unsafe a month ago, but because they were protesters now, and I don't want to get involved in a protest. And, you know, and they're breaking windows and throwing things, and that's I'm a public person. Like I'm staying away from there. But yeah, I protect everything. And but look at some of these protests. And now the protesters and the Les Miserables of France are saying, wait a second, $300 million they were able to raise from two of the richest people in France. Where were these rich people when we're protesting, when the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, says, we're going to raise the carbon tax, we're going to raise, and that's going to hit everybody, and it hits everybody unequally.
Right.
All right? Because when you get in the United States, there's a gradual tax. As you make more money, your tax rate goes up because the presumption is that it should affect you equally as somebody else.
Right.
If there's a flat tax and everyone gets the same tax, 10%.
Right.
What is somebody who makes $10 million? So what? So you pay 10%. But somebody who makes $20,000 pays 10%. That's got to hurt.
That hurts a lot.
That hurts a lot more than somebody who makes $10 million.
So here's my question. Maybe I'm diving too deep, Brad, so tell me. But then where does climate change fit into that? Because I agree with you that a carbon tax is regressive because it's going to impact everyone like that. But the reason that France tried to pass this carbon tax in the first place was to meet the goals in the Paris Climate Accords.
Yes, but there's a way to progressively do it. Listen, I'm no Bernie Sanders, But there's a way to progressively do it. So if you say, you know what? We want to change people's behavior. And the behavior we want to change is we want people to walk. We want people to take bicycles. We want people to have electric cars. We want to burn less fossil fuel.
Right.
Tax the hell out of it.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah.
But then on the same token, reduce your taxes somewhere else from the poor and middle class.
Right.
So they're not hit in the pocketbook.
Right.
So you want to change somebody's behavior, that's fine.
Right.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
You know what? Tax the hell out of gasoline. But then go reduce my taxes somewhere else so that I have the same money in my pocket at the end of the day.
As before. That makes sense.
That's what people in France are saying right now. And they say, well, how do all of a sudden these rich people have $300 million to go rebuild Notre Dame, which is very nice, don't get me wrong.
Right. No, but
where were they? Where were they 3 months ago when we're protesting and everyone's getting hit? They're not paying taxes on that $300 million.
Absolutely.
Ruling by the Attorney General means 1,000 more migrants are going to be sitting in jail. The Attorney General said that every person who comes to the border and applies for asylum is going to sit in jail, even whether they're a criminal or not.
What?
Yes. Thousands of asylum seekers who once have been let out on bond or on their own recognizance to come back for a hearing will now sit in jail. Why? It's a punishment. The United States is now punishing you for escaping violence, escaping your life. They are now punishing you by coming to the United States and applying for asylum. Due to the limited capacity of the jails, they need more tent cities. Barr said this is going to go into effect in 90 days.
Oh my
now, I can tell you as a lawyer, that's going to go right into federal court.
Right.
I don't need Abadir sues the government to tell you that, okay? But we could do a whole thing about Abadir sues the government on that as well, okay? Which is why I always say that, these BIA decisions, these immigration officers, they're at the whim of the president.
Right.
Whatever the president and the attorney general says, that's what they do. Slow down the immigration cases, slow it down. Deny cases, deny them. The only way you get justice is when you go into federal court. Right now, these days. You don't get justice with the Department of Homeland Security. You don't get justice with the Immigration Service. You get justice by going into federal court. As a matter of fact, Michael Tan, an attorney for the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, said his organization and others are preparing to sue the Trump government as it is.
So what exactly do they want them to do, though? Like, if
Not come here.
Yeah. So
They want them not to come here.
So
they want them
do they
to,
even give any type of advice of like, okay, don't come here when you want to seek asylum? Like, but what are they supposed to do when they're trying to? They don't care.
They don't give a shit. They're not. Donald Trump says it's not my
crazy
problem.
to me.
It's not my problem, and I don't got to give them advice on what to do. Just stay in your own country, get killed, get raped, get beat up, be scared to walk in the streets because of gang violence, whatever their problems may be.
And it's exactly like you always say, if he's creating a problem even more, because what do you think that putting thousands of people in a detention center that don't belong there is going to do? Like, you're going to just keep creating more animosity towards this country, more problems with people who are being housed in these detention centers, which are probably violating human rights at some point or another. What are you doing? This is solving nothing.
And Donald Trump says, stay home. Basically what he's saying, stay home, we have no room for you.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you've ever driven out of New York City.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And I used to drive from New York City all the way out to Michigan. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of room out there, and I haven't even hit all those states.
Right.
There's no. You want facts?
True.
I got a flat tire on Route 80 in Pennsylvania near the Ohio border, and I want you to know I sat on that roadway for 3 hours before a human being came by.
Not a soul.
Not a soul came by,
yes.
and it was pitch dark, and Brad Bernstein had to change his tire himself, and if anybody knows anything about Brad Bernstein, he don't know how to change a damn tire.
I was about to say, you know
All
how
right,
to change a tire?
I wish back then there was a bunch of asylum seekers walking down the street to help me.
Okay.
And they would have
I'm not
probably
mad at
been
that.
very nice and helped you
so
fix your
the point
tire.
of the matter is there's lots of freaking room all over the United
Right.
States of America. I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Well, I think he's talking about the detention centers that he has now said he wants to put more people in. It's ridiculous. I don't understand.
In good news.
Good news, yeah.
In good news, Beyonce has finally dropped an album.
That's a great
Right, the
news.
world has stopped. I thought the world stopped for many reasons, but apparently, according to this card, the world only stops for Beyonce. Nobody else.
It does.
It does not stop for anything else.
It stops for Beyonce.
It stops for Beyonce, and the fans were going crazy because she dropped her album Homecoming, which is
not even a real
which is
album.
also a documentary,
it's all live.
which is also a documentary, and it's also her live
gorgeous.
performance from Coachella, being the first black woman to headline the festival.
Right.
It offers an intimate look at Beyonce prepared to headline the festival. 40 tracks on the album.
I think
and it's all her own stuff.
It's all her own
All
stuff. It's just live.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But
That's
did you
already
see?
been shown?
But did you see that on Genius, the website Genius,
Yeah.
for the music,
Love that.
there is an unreleased album that shows for Beyonce, and I think it was like 15 tracks or 16 tracks, and one of the tracks has Rihanna.
Oh, no!
Did you can
Yeah.
listen to it?
Oh, that would
No,
be
it's not released yet.
Oh, it's just it
so
was
the-
like an article. So.
No, it's not an article. On Genius, they list like different albums.
whichever way.
This one is all says unreleased.
Oh, so we don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, but like it has all the titles.
Right, so Beyonce
it's-
and Rihanna's track.
has a track.
Right, it's gonna
and
be
that's and Beyonce and Solange have a track together too.
That
gonna
would
be cool.
really
so
make me feel
everybody's
some type
going
of way.
crazy because
Yeah.
that's what I really care about. This I
Thank
feel
you.
like
I don't care about this.
I don't care about this because she knows how to finagle
So-
people so much. Like she makes money off of crazy stuff. She did a whole tour with the same music like
And
4
people
different
loved
times,
it.
and people still go.
Oh, I was
Right.
sad I missed the second of those
So,
four.
so are you disagreeing with what's written here? The world did not stop because
No,
of
they
this.
did.
It
didn't
did.
matter.
She controls the world.
She controls the world.
It didn't stop my world.
I see.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
I
see.
got a really controversial Beyonce hot take yesterday that I
What?
gotta get you guys' opinion on. This is what I was told by another human. I respect Beyonce's position in the world as a woman and very much admire that, but I do not find Beyonce attractive.
Well, that's just
That
dumb.
was that's
You
what I
know, then
heard.
that person needs to go to a ophthalmologist.
Right.
All right, she's one of the most beautiful women. Period. All right.
You know what? I wholeheartedly agree.
All right, that woman, that
sounds
guy
just
needs to
hate
know.
it. That's a guy who said it?
Yeah, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking.
You know what? No, he does. He probably just wants to be famous or talked about because, listen,
come
we're
on.
talking about him now. Because that sounds absolutely absurd.
Come on.
Look at her.
Come on.
Look at her. I
Like,
gotta be honest.
come on.
I struggled.
Come on.
I struggled to wrap my
Come
brain
on.
around it as
Yeah.
well.
Come on.
I needed to know what the other straight male perspective was.
There is no
Come
straight
on.
male perspective on there.
I thought it was unanimous
Common
as
sense.
well.
All right. The only straight male perspective is everybody wants to be Jay-Z. He's married to Beyonce, he's rich, and he's a really good performer. He's got the
Right.
life, okay?
The life.
So that's basically
Lord,
it, right?
Lord.
I'm on board with everything you guys are
Self-made.
Right. Now that's
real-
self-made.
the real
Now that is
self-made.
real
Yes,
self-made,
that's
right?
Uh-huh.
So meanwhile, Ariana Grande, also self-made,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, she's sharing a terrifying scan on Instagram, showing her post-traumatic stress disorder levels in her brain after the terrorist attack at her concert in
Yeah.
Manchester, England in 2017. She says the post-traumatic stress disorder brain on the right side of the photo shows. I don't know. We have this photo. We should have a photo somewhere. It's coming. It's coming. There it is. Okay. So she says on the right side of the photo shows a bunch of highlighted regions of the brain that are impacted by the disorder, while the healthy brain on the left is mostly dark. It's not a joke, and I don't want to make a joke about this, but I wish it was actually Ariana Grande's doctor who was telling this
tweeted this?
who was telling me this, because a lot of times you go to a doctor, you don't even understand what the doctor says, and you always get it wrong anyway, which is why you always want 2 or 3 people to come and listen to what the doctor says.
Right.
So this is what Ariana Grande is telling us that she believes the doctor told her.
Right. Okay.
What?
You understand what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
No.
she's showing her.
She's showing her brain.
scan.
She's showing her brain, and she's showing that the left side of her brain is frazzled because of post-traumatic stress disorder, and on the right side it's not frazzled. And this is what somebody told her. It's not a joke, and I'm not making a joke about it,
Yeah.
but
When
the
you say
reality
somebody
is
told her, but what do you mean?
what do you mean? Her doctor told her. I
Yeah.
mean, but the reality is, I have no idea if this is correct or not. I would like to see this from a doctor if she really wants to make
Well, I mean, those
a
are
valid point
X-rays
about it.
right there, aren't they?
Yeah, but how do you know? I mean, she knows how to read an MRI scan?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's
Come
kinda-
on.
Like you
Who
see-
said hilarious and terrifying?
She said she did it. This was on her. This was
What
her
does that
post.
mean?
She was just like, "This is hilarious that you can see PTSD so clearly." And then a bunch of people were like, "How dare you say hilarious?" And then she wrote, "Not a joke." On
It's
the
not a
bottom.
joke. It's not a joke, and I'm not making a joke about
No,
it.
no.
Okay, but I will say this. I don't know what I'm looking at. You know, when I'm
Fair,
relying on
and that's
Ariana
fair.
Grande to
Give you medical advice.
interpret her an MRI.
Right.
You know, I think that's a little beyond her scope of,
You know,
knowledge.
She has had a lot of stuff happen to
Yeah.
her recently as well. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, her ex-boyfriend, Mac Miller, committed suicide.
Right.
She broke up with her boyfriend because of that. But that, you know, goes into the whole public figure thing. I actually want to ask the Brad Squad what you guys think about public figures. Do you feel like sometimes they show or give too much personal information on Instagram and Twitter? Or do you feel like they should do that since they are taking on the public figure?
Right, like an example. I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, do you think like some, host of, a well-honored show should be talking about his weight and his weight loss every day for the next 6 weeks?
See, and that's the thing. I mean,
Right? I mean,
'cause
I'm
you
just
can
doing it for
inspire-
fun, but,
yeah,
you know.
can inspire.
Right,
You
right, I
don't
can
know
inspire, right.
if you are, but I
Right.
do think that some things need to go back to back in the day when you're at least discreet with your life and not just throwing your whole life.
Well, Jonathan, you were on a reality show.
Right.
I mean,
And
you
even with
laid
that,
it out.
but
You laid it out.
Even with that, I told them, like, I don't want you guys. Well, I mean, it really depends on what reality show you do. So the one that I did do, I said, listen, we're focusing on business, so don't try and go into personal or don't try and create.
I
this,
didn't watch every last second of your show. Did they ever get personal? I watched parts of it, but I didn't watch the whole thing.
The most personal it was because of me when somebody got me
You got into
riled
that
up
right.
and
You
I
got
almost
into that
got in
fight
a
with that guy.
Right.
I saw that.
Right,
Yeah.
but like at least it wasn't the producers creating a whole thing.
They didn't
that
tell
was
you that
naturally,
that was naturally
that was
happening.
natural. Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I mean. I do think that being a public figure, you inspire and motivate a lot of people, but you also have to understand that you have so much power with your platform, and some things you just don't need to tell.
Jessica Leamy says public figure, public life.
Yeah.
And Marge Higgs says, I don't give a rat's ass. I see people digging at each other over celebrities. Like, seriously.
Right, because they ain't paying your bills.